Hey, welcome back to Tactical Pontoon. It's me, James, here in the illustrious Trigger Cave where you might say the magic happens. So, tonight we are going to be talking about the HK VP series of pistols, as well as, or more importantly, the Elite Marksman Kopis trigger system that I have recently released for this gun. Now, the HK VP series of triggers is a striker-fired pistol, probably, and there's plenty of reviews on this thing. There's plenty of information about this, and it's not a new gun. So I'm really not going to go over the particulars or the specs of this gun. I am going to go over the trigger system and my thoughts and maybe a few technical details about it. The first thing is, with this trigger system, installation is not like a Glock. It is a drop-in system. There really is no fitting of the system. There's no adjustments. However, taking apart an HK VP9 is similar to looking at taking apart an old Chevy pickup truck and a 747 jetliner. Because let's go with Airbus, because Boeing is relatively more simple than the European Airbus, and this is a European gun, whereas the Glock is also a European gun, but we could do Volkswagen Beetle versus Airbus 380. How about that? Going off on a tangent. So it is going to be more difficult, and unless you are very careful and mechanically inclined, it is something that I recommend to have either a competent gunsmith or somebody that you trust, or yourself very carefully, and I will link down below the guide that I personally used when I took apart this gun for the first time and multiple times afterwards. I made sure that I followed the directions over and over, because there's a decent amount of parts that need to come out in order for you to install this trigger system. So it's not a Glock. This is definitely not a Glock. This trigger right out of the box is actually, the factory trigger is actually pretty decent. It is not great, but it is pretty decent. And with the release of the long slide version, there are going to be more, well, the long slide, I'm sure the long slide actual full gun will be out before long. Kind of neat idea where they release just the slide first up. That's kind of neat, instead of just making you buy the entire gun first and the slide second. Interesting way to do that. So there are going to be more people that are going to be perhaps using it for competition, or at least pretend to use it for competition because they have the long slide. And that's really the perfect time for the Elite Marksman to hit the market. So here we are. Now, being that there's quite a bit of difference between the trigger system of the Glock and the HK, the way that the Elite Marksman works for the HK versus my trigger system for the Glock, there's going to be some differences in the way that it operates. Now, my triggers are known for very little take-up initially. With the HK, that really was not something that I could tackle first off. So for this Elite Marksman, you are going to have some take-up. However, because of the trigger shoe that I used, and you will see this is the Lobos trigger shoe. Really is a beautiful trigger shoe. This color combination is probably not initially going to be offered, probably going to stick more towards the black and red trigger shoes. So this currently is not an option, but it may be in the future as stock grows. So anyways, this is the Lobos trigger shoe. Let's see if we can get a good it is a curved shoe, but it is less curved than the factory polymer shoe. And because of its design, there is less take-up or pre-travel than the factory. So, looking at this guy, you will see there is some travel right before it hits a wall. And it is a relatively distinct wall that it does hit, and then it just breaks right through that. Reset is relatively short, and it's nice. It's breaking around 3 to 3.5 pounds. So it is lighter than factory. It is much, much smoother. That's really where this comes in. Not only is it lighter, it's smoother. The factory trigger has some grit in it. It definitely has some grit in it, especially in the reset. And being that it has a trigger return spring, which can be kind of fun to put in, I will have a tool available for the HK trigger springs because they are kind of a pain in the butt. HK Parts has one. I'll be doing one. This trigger spring tool is not going to be pretty. It's not going to be something that is manufactured. I'm literally grinding away a pair of needle nose pliers in order for it to work. If you are in a production environment where you're building a shit ton of these, you're probably going to want something nicer. However, it is going to work. It will work really well. This is literally the tool that I built for myself. I plan on making the one on the website a bit nicer. Let's see if that'll zoom in there. And it's really not. You can see that little hole in the end there. That's where the spring literally sits, so that you can hold that spring and put it down into the gun. Really is not hard. The first couple times, and if you don't have this tool, you're just going to lose your shit. You will need this tool. You can get it from HK Parts. I didn't order theirs, so I don't really know how nice it is in comparison to what I will be offering. But what I'll be offering will be relatively inexpensive, and it will work. So, leave it at that. So, you've got the trigger springs. You have a lower break of 3 to 3.5 pounds versus factory, which is coming around 5 to 4.5 pounds. So you're looking at about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds lower weight and much, much smoother. As I said, this has a trigger return spring, so the reset is on point. Like it, unlike a Glock sometimes, especially if you have a Glock that has a really light trigger, normally with a heavy trigger spring, you will find that the reset is a little bit slow. With this, it's there. It's easy to over, if you're not riding that trigger correctly and you don't know your gun, it would be easier to have a longer trigger pull, because that spring, while reduced compared to factory, is, it's noticeable. But it's not a bad thing. It's something that once you get used to it, you're gonna just be knocking it out of the park. So what I've done to this is there are 3 parts. There are 3 worked parts that come with this system. You have the factory disconnector, that has been highly polished and worked so that there's no burrs. This is probably one of the most important parts that you can replace on your VP, because the factory part is a stamped piece, and it is manufactured in large quantities, and it's rough, especially the older ones. If you have an older one, more than likely, at the very least, if you ordered a replacement disconnector, which I may eventually have just those parts available that have been worked, but just do the whole system. The next thing is the Sear Catch. It has a little part that rides inside of the sear. There's a lot of metal to metal contact with parts that are stamped out in a production environment that need some love, that need some attention. And that's where this Elite Marksman just knocks it out of the park, because you're not waiting for your gun to wear in. And I do a little bit of reshaping here and there, so that it is a very, very smooth pull to that crisp 3 to 3.5 pound break. This is a race trigger. Now, one of the things I found that I didn't like, especially in the gun initially, before I started working the trigger, was the striker block, which, let's see if we can get, okay, you see this lever in here? Okay, with a Glock, let's see if I can, oh my goodness, let's get some light in here. That's the thing about the light in here, because of my bald head and the glow that we get over this, I normally have to turn the lights down a little bit. So, 1 second. Let's get some extra light going on in here. There we go. Brightness. Okay. You'll see this little lever right here. Okay? See that? That little guy adds a good amount of friction in the trigger pull, especially the take-up on the factory gun. You feel it. You feel a gritty, that pre-travel grit is just very noticeable in the factory gun. Now, I go in and you can see right in here, this little guy right there, I do a little bit of reshaping and a lot of polishing in order for it to just glide right past that striker block safety. And it is very noticeable. That is probably the first thing I noticed once I got this system done, was just how nice that initial take-up is. And I'm not a fan of take-up, but if I'm going to have it, I want it to be controlled. And that's what this is all about. This is a very controlled trigger with a quick reset, a very light. This has become a trigger that I love. Not just like, but love. It's just smooth. It's just buttery. I love this trigger. And so that is the Elite Marksman Kopis for the HK series. This guy is live on the website currently as of the 2nd. Oh my God, this year is going by fast. Of June 2nd, 2019. I have one available right now. More are coming, and currently there's not a lead time. It will just be as I build them. I will put what colors I have on the website. So it will be kind of a limited deal. As I can get parts, I will put them together and you can order them. So tell your friends. if you've got one of these, or if you know somebody who has one of these and maybe they're considering, because there's not a lot of options on the market. Unlike the Glock, which has a million different options on the market, there's not much available for the HK. And now there's another one. There's also just the spring kit. If you're not looking for that buttery smooth trigger, but you do want to, or maybe you shot the living crap out of yours and you want something that's a little bit lighter, get the spring kit. It's a good option. Unlike another place that sells the spring kit, because there's only two places. There's me and HK Parts. Unlike them, I actually sell my springs, which are different. They are not the same, different weights. I sell mine individually. So if you want to lower the break of your HK, but you want to keep the reset extremely quick, you can buy just the Sear spring. If you want just to reduce the reset and leave the trigger heavier, you can buy just the trigger return spring, or you can buy the entire kit. That's pretty cool. Nobody else does that. And you know, I'm all about options. Maybe I'll break out this entire kit, so maybe you can buy just the disconnector, or just the trigger bar, or just the Sear Catch. We'll see. We'll look at it in the future, but I just wanted to give you, and I've been rambling on. I really didn't want to do a 20-minute video, so we're going to go underneath of that. So HK, VP9, VP40, VP357, because that's what you need to have. Elite Marksman Kopis trigger set. That's it. Look for it on the website today. Look for it on. I'm sending one out to a couple different I'm sending a couple out to a couple different YouTubers. So look forward to their thoughts on this trigger system soon. What's up next? What is up next? What are you going to be doing? Are there new Glock triggers coming out? Maybe. But what am I doing next? SIG P320. It's coming up. It's coming up. There's going to be some really cool stuff that's a little ways out. Canic TP9. Amazing trigger system. Already, the Canic is one of my favorites, but I got some stuff in work for it. Are you looking for maybe, I don't know, 2-pound trigger? Maybe lighter for your Canic? Could be a possibility. So stay tuned. We will talk to you later. Like, maybe subscribe. Ask questions down below. Let me know. If you're interested, let me know. What could I do better? Doesn't matter. Just leave some thoughts. And that slide. What do you think of that? J&L Machining. God, he just knocked it right out of the box. This is a beautiful thing. Going to have some grip work done. This frame, which a lot of the stipplers call the devil's plastic, is going to get some work, and I'm really excited about it. If you've ever heard of Get a Grip Customs, or maybe you haven't, you really should, and I will also be linking that down below in the video. That Sloan is an awesome guy, does some amazing work, and I cannot wait to see what he does here. Anyways, that has been Tactical Pontoon. I've rambled on for basically 20 minutes. We will catch you later. Instagram is where you're going to find me. Who knows when I'll make another